Today we're here to talk about the navigation between screens on the 5100 APC Press Control with the 806 operator terminal.
Link Systems 5100 APC Automatic Press Control. We will be providing navigation instructions to assist operators, maintenance, and setup personnel with helpful tips. For detailed explanation of items discussed in this video, consult your OmniLink 5100 APC Press Control Manual. This is the Link Systems OmniLink 806 operator terminal. It is utilized with the 5100 APC Press Control. I want to point out a few features of the screen. There are boxes outlined in blue. These buttons or switches are used to navigate from one screen to another. The top area of the operator terminal is used to display certain critical information and provide keys that are present regardless of what screen is being displayed. These different choices show different views, different information, and different language options. In the upper right-hand corner, you can toggle between the language of Spanish and English. This change goes through all screen and each subsection of the control. Note, the key switch on the 806 terminal, the key selector must be in program in order to make changes to the jobs and also to the pages. Only when you're in program are certain touchscreen buttons available. Conversely, you must be in run mode in order to stroke the machine. Navigating from the main screen, we know it's the main screen because it says at the top of the page, main screen. This main screen, or home page, shows you all of the subsections available on the control. This main screen displays all of the configured plugins or features. The status of each of these features is also displayed and shown in green, meaning OK, yellow, not ready or bypassed, and red, there's a problem. The sections are press control, die protection, limit switch, tonnage monitor, auto setup, analog monitor, LINKNet network, jobs, counters, and motor page, which allows you to start all motors available to be started through the screen. If you have utilized part tracking or gagging, it should be turned on, and there will be these two fields shown in the central area. Your screen may vary depending on the features that are configured for your control. Press control screen. From the main screen, to navigate to the press control, press the press control button once and it will go to that page. The page will be featured in white, displaying the current page. Information available on the press control screen includes the stop time at top and mid-stroke, as well as the clutch engagement time. This page also features a shortcut to the motor page, which we will talk about shortly. You also have the settings for automatic single stroke time and critical angle, which we will talk about in the configuration and troubleshooting video. We also have details under the reason for last stop. These details can help to find out what caused the machine to stop at the last executed stop point. From the press control screen, tap exit until you find yourself back at the main screen. The next page we will look at is die protection. So we hit the die protection button. From here, we see information such as channel type, description, status, and state. You'll notice that the particular channel we are looking at is shown here. From the die protection main screen, we can go into channel settings, which will allow us to configure each channel's monitoring capability based on the sensor or probe you're using. From here, choose the channel type. Notice the yellow on the screen indicator, prompting you to change the Run Program key. In Program, to change the channel type, the Run Program key must be in program mode. Choose the channel type from Not Used, Static, Cyclic, Transfer, or In Position, as well as one-part edge or pass, two-part edge or pass, and custom. Once you select the type of sensor, you will now have additional settings available, such as how you want this to stop, immediately or on top. Additional information like, is this channel bypassed? Yes or no? You'll see that here. You also see the delay stroke setting for the sensor, which in this case is 0. To select other channels, press Next Channel until you arrive at your desired choice. Let's take a look now if you select Transfer. Additional logic settings are displayed to allow you to customize to your needs. A description of the sensor can save time by showing the function of the sensor, and not just normally on or normally off input type, an NPN or PNP sensor, which tells you what it is, but not how it's used. The title Sensor Name doesn't explain where or how the sensor is used, or the purpose for the sensor or proc switch. Stop type, immediate, top stop, IntelliStop, mark apart, or bypassed. We can see the settings which tell you the angle of acceptance where the sensor transitions, indicated in black. If it's outside of the window, then the sensor will be ignored. You can also see the transition for that switch, sensor, or procs. Please review the setup video for different sensor types and their related angle of acceptance. Looking at a cyclic type sensor, we can see the settings which tell you the angle of acceptance where the sensor transitions. If it's outside of this window, the sensor will be ignored. As seen here, you can see the angle where it turns on and off. You can also see it visually from the 160 to 200 degrees it's set for. You also see the transition in black. Exit, and we're back at our home screen. Programmable limit switch will look a lot like die protection. Press limit switch button and you'll see that there are 8 PLS shown here. On the limit switch screen, you see channel mode, description, status, and state for each PLS channel. As in die protection, we have a channel setting button. Press the channel setting button. Description will not only allow you to describe what is being done, but the role that's being performed. Counted outputs allows you to set an action based on the number of actuations and trigger the PLS based on a number of changes. You can also set this to not used if you have no advanced functions. Setting up a PLS, you choose on at an angle and off at another angle. Other modes such as angle on and off after a certain time are also available. We return now to the main screen, pressing exit until you're back at the main screen. Tonnage Monitor. Press the Tonnage Monitor button on the screen. On the screen, we see the total tonnage as well as the tonnage of each channel. Also, we have the capability of viewing the reverse tonnage total and for each channel. The indicator status tells us exactly what is going on. Green means everything's okay. Yellow, it's bordering on tonnage fault, and red, you're outside of the limits. Go back to the forward view. On the screen, we can adjust the tonnage limits up and down. You can see the channel tonnage is within the configured high and low limits. The limits are configured for forward tonnage. We see the forward limits. Press reverse to view and adjust reverse tonnage. Most manufacturers recommend 10% or less of the max tonnage as the reversal limit. In order to set these limits, there is a simple method. When you have a new setup, a new tool, or a recently serviced or sharpened tool, you can use Autosetup. To use Autosetup, press the Autosetup button, adjust the Autosetup tolerance to 10% as an example, but 5% may cause the tool to generate a bad part, so adjust accordingly. Caution. New tools are the only ones you should use for Autosetup, or when the tool was recently maintained. Do not use this function for every setup, as this will create a false baseline set to a worn tool tonnage value. Execute this Autosetup for 16 strokes. We have the capability of bypassing your tonnage monitor by low limit, number of strokes, auto unbypass, bypass and setup, part tracking for empty or bad, or unbypass, which cancels when you switch to production mode. You can also bypass low limits in the setup mode. In the tonnage monitor bypass screen, you can see the number of strokes for your low limits. There are buttons to turn the low limits on and off, and turn reversal limit on and off. You also can turn bypass limits on and off. Press exit to go back to the main tonnage screen. In order to reset a tonnage fault, press the Reset Fault Touch button. Now press exit to go back to the main screen. Autosetup. The screen displays Autosetup slide position, counterbalance, and or cushion pressure, depending on the options that you have configured for your Autosetup. In order to set the shut height, you adjust the set points, press the slide. Shut height set points can be programmed to the desired position. Press exit. Counterbalance. Press counterbalance. Set your counterbalance pressure or the die weight, which automatically calculates the pressure for that tool. Press exit. Cushion pressure. Press cushion. Enter the pressure or cushion force set point. Press exit until you're back at the main screen. Analog monitor and LINKNet will be discussed in our other videos. Touching the field on the left-hand side of the screen will navigate you to the Jobs page. The 5100 APC with the 806 terminal gives you the capability of storing up to 1,000 jobs. Once you have completed the setup of a job, you've set the die protection, you've set the programmable limit switches, tonnage monitor, set up serial communications, and set the motor stroke per minute, you can now store the job. Press Store Setup. You can store a setup or even overwrite a job. You can now give the job a job number and more detailed description. Recall setup. When recalling an existing job, you have several options. You can sort your jobs by number, then press Recall Setup, or you can cursor down and highlight the job, then select it and recall selected. Another option, you can just recall by pressing Recall the job number, recall the setup, and enter the job number. When you recall a setup, a yellow warning message will come up on the screen. The caution to make sure that you have the correct job and the tool selected. Remember, entering the wrong job can be hazardous and costly. Press Recall Setup. Job correction or overwriting. It may be that you have changed a parameter. Maybe the speed of the job has changed and you increased the strokes per minute. Maybe the feed communication setting has changed and the feed length is no longer correct. Once you've made these changes, you can go back in and store the job again under the same name and overwrite the parameters. It will ask you to confirm this change. Press Yes. The job now has been stored with these changes. To erase a job, press Erase Setup. Select the job. The highlighted job will now be deleted. You will get a confirmation screen and you will need to press Yes if you choose to confirm the deletion of the selected job. Once deleted, press Exit. Press Exit again and you're back at the main screen. From the main screen, select Counters. There are several counter choices included in the 5100 APC: part, bin, quality, scrap, job hit count, and stroke count. Stroke count is like the odometer on a car. Whether you're running a tool, a part, or you're not running anything in the job, it will still count every stroke. In each of the counters, you can select the number already completed under Count and the max limit for the style of that counter. Press to toggle between the types of sensor you want to use, whether it is stroke or sensor. The counter must be on in order to count. If by accident you have cleared the part counter, perhaps in order to run a hot job, you can enter back the number of previously completed parts. Put the count in to where it says count. Part count is the example here. Once you arrive at the count, you will need to reset in order to continue. Confirm yes. The scrap counter shown here, we have a part count limit of 500, an actual count of 26, and a bin count of 4. Increasing the scrap count will decrease the number of actual parts in your part count and in your bin count. If you decrement the scrap count, perhaps you removed a part and held it for inspection and it turns out to be okay, decrementing scrap will put those counts back into those counters. Under counter setting, press configure. You can configure if you are counting by machine strokes or sensor counts. These toggle back and forth. Under configure, you can choose the number of parts per stroke if you have a 2-out die or a 4-out die. This way the counted parts match the number of the actual count of parts you're producing. Counter frequency is in case you take multiple strokes in order to create one part. If it takes 2 strokes to create one part, you set a frequency to 2. The minimum must be 1. Press exit until you're back at the main screen. Motor start screen. Press the motor start touchscreen in order to start the motors. From the touchscreen, you must first press the motor start enable push button. Then press the lube motor start first, then the main motor start. You can adjust the speed from this screen also. Select the strokes per minute. Increase or decrease the number. This will speed up or slow down the press depending on which direction you've selected. You can also stop the motors here. Press exit. Modes of operation. The mode selector key switch allows you to change modes of operation, including the most common of which, inch, single stroke, and continuous. Additional options of auto single stroke and continuous on demand are available but require configuration and special safety precautions. This has been the 5100 APC navigation. Additional videos are also available for troubleshooting and configuration, as well as videos for our other controls.